Ali and Hannah, his brother of Yosef, and uncle of Hamza.
Oh, thank you.
And this is the lucky one. This is Thomas. Doers, and he was taken over from Knesset. Now she returned. Now we take the consideration.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. And it is good to see a room filled with so many from the press that are here to hear this message today. And I'm proud to welcome a bipartisan and bicameral group of my colleagues and to be able to host Speaker Amir Ohana and members of our Israel Knesset. We stand here united across party lines and across countries for one cause, and that cause is to bring our hostages home. For 124 days, Hamas has held innocent Israelis, American citizens, captive. I've been to the region and seen the brutal impact of Iranian-backed terrorism. These families live in agony every single day. They are uncertain if their loved ones are even alive or if they have passed. Instead of fearing us, Hamas holds press conferences and entertains foreign officials in Doha. They think they can barter with innocent lives and use them as human shields. It is far past time to end Hamas's reign of terror. That starts with cutting off their IRGC sponsors. And we must do everything we can to bring our hostages home. It starts today. So I am so thankful again to have a number of colleagues joining us today and members of our Israel Knesset, as well as family members. We will hear from each one of them and their important message. And again, I want to thank members of the press for coming forward and for sharing this message as broadly and as loudly as you can. And with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague from across the rotunda. It is democratic. Again, it is bicameral and bipartisan that we stand united with Israel and in support of our hostages and their families. Democrat Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator Ernst, and thank you for your leadership, for your friendship, for your bipartisan unity. Our partnership, both before October 7th and since, has been remarkable and I think impactful. I am so honored to join not only Senator Ernst, but our bipartisan bicameral delegation here, as well as our Israeli friends and allies and the families of those who are still brutally being held captive, and the family members have been mentally tortured since that terrible day on the 7th. We're joined by Speaker Amir Ohana, members of the Knesset, Yuli, Yoel, Edelstein, Efrat, Reiten, Marom, Idan, Roll, and others as well. To our Israeli friends, welcome to the United States Capitol. This group of members standing together are dedicated to working to secure the release of the hostages that remain held captive in Gaza. We will not rest. We will not rest until your loved ones are returned to you. I know I've said this repeatedly, but it's still the case. My heart has felt like it is encased by lead. And that is the same as every Jewish heart worldwide. This has been not only a horrific and tragic time for the Israeli people, but it has been a worldwide tragedy for the Jewish people. We recently returned from Israel and the region. First, we were in the region on a mission to advance peace and normalization in the region between Israel's Arab neighbors and Israel. The sole purpose initially was that. Then we turned on a dime, were able to go into Israel and be the first congressional members to not only talk about our strong support for our ally and friends in Israel, but to show them we are. And the message that we are here today to deliver, that we will help bring home every last hostage. We will not let Hamas succeed. The hostages must be released. The Arab neighbors and friends that we have in the region must use their leverage, which they possess fully, and they need to spend political capital that they have quite a lot of to do so. The President and the United States Congress will continue to stand with Israel. We brought our mission home to ensure that we do not let Americans turn a blind eye, the news to go on, to the names and the faces behind the statistics. Last week, I was proud to lead my colleagues in the House for a second time, also bipartisan, in a special order hour, where we made sure that we continued to shine a spotlight on the plight of these hostages, on the horror of their captivity, on the hostages as individual human beings, because it's so easy to just homogenize all of this and think of it more generally instead of specifically. We intentionally showed their beautiful faces and spoke about what makes each of them special, Mr. Speaker, reminding all of us to never forget these victims who are still suffering under terrorist brutality. And I know we're actually trying to avoid using the term victim because we know that they are all survivors and they will thrive when they come out, and we will help make sure, as Israel has with the hostages that have already been released with the help of the United States. Our fight continues. I'm proud to join my colleagues here today to reaffirm the ironclad and special relationship between the United States and Israel. And as a Zionist and as a proud Jew, I say Am Yisrael Chai, and it's my honor to introduce the Speaker of the Knesset, Amir Ohana.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you, Johnny, for your kind words, for your hospitality, and for the tremendous efforts that you took upon yourself, committing that you will do everything in your power to bring the hostages back to their families. I will be very brief because I want to give the floor for the families. I think it is more important that we will... Oh, sorry for that. Thank you. I think it's more important that we hear them than us. But let me just state that I was invited by Speaker Johnson to the House, and I decided that it would be a good idea if I won't come by myself, but bring a delegation of members of Knesset, both from the coalition and the opposition. We have them with us here today. They will also brief you shortly, and also a delegation of.
We apologize.
And also a delegation of families of the hostages of three religions: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. We have with us, and they will also shortly, briefly introduce. Yes, we have. Oh, that's good. They will introduce themselves. The purpose of this delegation is to show the world and to show America that we are united, unlike what Hamas intended, that we will, the Israeli society will break down following October 7th. We are united for three main goals. Number one is returning the hostages to their families as soon as possible. Number two is very clear, total, unmitigated defeat to Hamas, and we cannot stop before that happens. And number three is to strengthen and deepen the relations between America and Israel even further. On this, we are all united. We have proven throughout this delegation that we can work together for these goals, and we had very productive and fruitful meetings. And with this, let me just give a last message. You know, the Jewish people has suffered for 2,000 years riots and pogroms and persecution and even the Holocaust. What we have managed to do throughout the years is not only to survive, but even to flourish and grow stronger from these events. And I am absolutely sure that this will be the case following October 7th as well. We will prevail. We will see a better future for the Jewish people, for the Israeli people, and for the free world, because this has got to be clear for everyone. It's not a private war between Israel and Hamas. In our region, Israel represents something. Israel stands for something, and this something is the free world, the freedoms we all share, the values that we share, which are exactly what those who committed October 7th oppose. And Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Shiite militias, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad are merely proxies of Iran. This has got to be very clear. And if there is one thing I would like you to take with you, is that Iran, that funds and operates and created these monstrous terror organizations, must not exit this war the way it entered. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, we will now have our hostage families. Suve Moore, please.
Hello. Good morning. Thank you very much, Debbie and Johnny. Thank you very, very much to be here. We are the parents of Eitan, 23 years old. He is our oldest son. We are parents for 8 kids, and we don't know if our son is still alive. We didn't get anything from the Israeli intelligence for more than 70 days. I think that the first step to be with us is to close your eyes and to think about your loved ones being in a tunnel, in a dark tunnel, without air, without food, without water, and very, very difficult for us to think about our son, our hero son, that rescued dozens of people in the Nova Festival, sitting there in the tunnels without food and water, and with these animals of Hamas. We know that you are with us all the time in your hearts and your praise, and we came to you to ask you to keep stand with Israel. Thank you very much.
We'll also hear from Ali Ziadna.
Ali. And Ben will translate. Ali will be speaking in Hebrew.
תודה רבה לכם על הקבלת פנים החמה שאתם נותנים לנו.
Thank you very much for your warm welcoming.
תודה מיוחדת לנשיא ג'ו ביידן, שהוא עושה את כל המאמצים להפסקת ועצירת האש והחזרת את כל החטופים.
Special thanks to the President Joe Biden for his efforts to all of his efforts to bring back the hostages.
אני עלי זיאדנה, בדואי, מוסלמי, ישראלי.
I'm Ali Ziadna, Bedouin, Muslim, Israeli.
בשביל העשירי אח שלי יוסף ושלושת הילדים שלו נחטפו ממקום עבודתם.
In October 7th, his brother and his 3 children were abducted from their workplace.
הם עבדו בחקלאות בקיבוץ חולית בעוטף עזה.
They worked in agriculture in Kibbutz Cholit, in the Gaza envelope.
למרות שהם דיברו בערבית והייתה איתם גם הילדה עיישה בת ה-17 עם חיג'אב על הראש.
Even though they spoke Arabic and they had the kid Aisha, she wore a hijab, and they know they are Muslims.
חמאס התעקש וחטף אותם יחד עם כולם כמו כולם.
Hamas took them like everyone else.
وبنصف באותו יום בשביעי לעשירי נרצחו כ-20 בדואים ישראלים על ידי חמאס.
And that day also 20 other Bedouins were murdered by Hamas.
ו8 אזרחים גם בדואים ישראלים נחטפו על ידי
And
חמאס.
8 Israeli Bedouins also were taken hostage by Hamas.
אנחנו כבר מעל 4 חודשים וכולנו תפילה וכולנו תקווה ובעזרה של הנשיא ג'ו ביידן בקרוב הם יחזרו הביתה ויחזרו בשלום.
We don't know for 4 months how are they doing, and with the help of Joe Biden, President Biden, and your help, they will come back.
תודה רבה.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we'll have the opportunity to hear from a number of our lawmakers, and then we'll move to the Knesset members and our remaining hostage families. We'll start with our lawmakers with Representative Marionette Miller-Meeks of Iowa.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Ernst. Also from Iowa, proud to have her as our junior senator, and also Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Difficult to speak after the families have spoken, but I thank you both for holding this important press conference. To our allies here, joining us from the Israel Knesset, and the families here today, I cannot imagine the heartbreak you're going through today and every day following the barbaric attacks by Hamas on October 7th, 2023. Earlier this year, I was proud to join Senator Ernst on the bipartisan and bicameral congressional delegation to Egypt, Israel, Qatar, and Bahrain to advocate for the Americans and all hostages that are still captive by Hamas. While in the region, we heard from family members, released hostages, and leaders in the region about the escalation of horrific crimes committed by Hamas against women, and knowing that hostages are still women and children being held. I'm grateful for the 100 hostages that have been released so far, but it is essential that the U.S. government and the Biden administration do everything in their power to demand Hamas release the rest of the hostages without delay. While Hamas released women, children, and grandparents, Israel was required to release 3 times as many convicted terrorists, not innocent civilians. Examples include charges of opening fire on Jewish civilians, stabbings, arsons, and many more. I'll continue to join my colleagues here in calling for the safe return of all hostages held by Hamas and for the United States' unwavering support of Israel's right to defend itself. Thank you so much. It's with great pleasure that I now introduce to you the Senator from North Carolina, Senator Ted Budd.
Well, thank you all, and good morning. Senator Ernst, thanks for your leadership on this issue. It's unwavering, and as is yours, Representative Wasserman Schultz. Thank you so much. And it's wonderful to travel over there with you and meet face-to-face with those that have suffered so much. And to our guests here today, we thank you for coming, and we want you to know that we're with you. So, Speaker Ohana and members of Knesset, again, thank you for being here, for your leadership day in and day out. And to the families, we thank you for your strength, for your courage, and your grace in the midst of the unknown. So it's been 124 days since the Hamas terrorists attacked Israel, massacred civilians, and they took hundreds of hostages. These innocent souls are being deprived of food, water, and of medical care, and they're being subjected to unbearable violence, sexual abuse, psychological torture. And we know that 6 of the remaining hostages are Americans. And one is a native of my home state of North Carolina, Keith Siegel. He was captured with his wife, Aviva. Aviva has been released. Keith is still in captivity. And his photo is one of those. All of these photos remain, whether they're Americans or Israeli, those photos remain on my desk every day. Keith's family, as well as these other families, they deserve for their loved ones to be released immediately and unconditionally. So I want to reiterate my message repeatedly and consistently to the state of Qatar. Time is up. Time is up. They must either pressure Hamas leaders to release the hostages now or expel Hamas from Doha. These families should not have to wait one more day. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce my colleague, Senator Jackie Rosen.
Thank you, Senator Budd. And I want to, again, thank Senator Ernst, Congressman Wasserman Schultz, for putting all this together, for your unwavering support of Israel, Speaker Ohana, the Knesset, for being here, and to the families of the hostages that are here and the ones that are not here, where every day since October 7th has been an eternity. Thank you for finding the strength to travel here and to share your painful story with us. The eternity of 124 days in captivity. That's how long it's been since the families of hostages held by Hamas have been hugged by their loved ones. Think about that. Just think about it. 124 days is how long these families have spent longing for their child, their sibling, their parent, their loved ones. Think about that. And it's been 124 days since the deadliest attack on Jews since the Holocaust. On October 7th, Hamas stormed into Israel and unleashed the unimaginable, a nightmare, one that has not yet ended for many families around the globe. The brutal and horrific terrorist attack left a trail of violence, a trail of death and destruction in its wake. Hostages who've been released have shared their stories about their horrible treatment, being kept in dark tunnels, little food to eat, little water, some even tortured, even worse, and not knowing whether they would live or die or see their loved ones again. So we are all here today to make our message clear. All of the parties engaged in negotiations, all of the parties engaged in negotiations must prioritize the swift release of the hostages so they can be returned to their families. My message to Hamas is the same as it has been every day for the last 124 days. Let these innocent people go now. Let them go now. And I know together, this group and many others will continue to pursue every viable path to seek their safe release, as we all must continue to hold the hostages in our hearts. They are not forgotten, and we must do everything to bring them home. Thank you. And now it is my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Senator John Fetterman.
Hi. Well, I have several of them. I think I've met with six family or victim groups during all of this. And, that should have stopped because everyone should have been home long ago. And I don't understand why. To anyone that is protesting or demanding for a ceasefire, let's be honest here. Why aren't you protesting to bring them all home right now? Why aren't you demanding that Hamas surrenders as well too? Because we know both of those happen. There's going to be the ending of the suffering and the death of innocent Palestinians and Israelis as well too. And now I support a two-state solution as well, but that is meaningless until Hamas is effectively eliminated as well. Now, of course, because Hamas now disavows and rejects a two-state solution as well too. And now they are committed to the destruction of Israel again. I would never want to negotiate with a group that wants to committed to my death as well. Bring all of these people back home now. End this. And stop pretending that this is some kind of equivalence here now. This is like, bring them back. You are holding children, women, elderly, other people. I believe now it's 30 now maybe removed to be lost. So, like I said, I'm proud to stand here with everybody today and grateful. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Senator Fetterman. And next we will have Congressman Don Norcross of New Jersey.
Thank you, Joni and Debbie, certainly for not only today, but for the two delegations that we had to the Middle East and particularly into Israel. And to Speaker, to have you here standing with what only can be described as a special relationship between our countries that we have with no others. To the families, my heart goes out to you. As I saw the senator this morning, I was asking her about whether or not she had a new grandbaby, and she had a grandbaby, and I just had one, and we're sharing that special bond that families have. And I look over to those who have lost and those who are being held hostage and remind us of the human piece of this, that special bond that we all have, and we all can reflect on that. You know, in New Jersey, Eden Alexander, who grew up in New Jersey and was serving, is now being held hostage. I met with his family several times to hear their specific pain of what they are going through. But ironically, we had met with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia literally hours before this attack. As somebody who had been somewhat skeptical of a broader peace plan, I walked away with many others in that delegation with the hope, quite frankly, with the dream that there could be peace. I literally woke up hours later to the nightmare of a terrorist attack, unprecedented. We went back just a few months ago, actually a month ago, and walked through the kibbutz with the gentleman who had son is being held hostage to show us where the slaughtering of children, of men, of women took place, and the humanity of that. While in the background we could hear the firing of guns and cannons. We're here just to say today, yesterday, and tomorrow we will always continue to work to free the hostages. And I just want to make one point before I turn this over. When we were in Qatar, meeting with the highest of officials, I will tell you in my decade-long service here in the House, I have never been part of a delegation that was more direct, more specific, more pointed in saying what we felt, what we need, and what they have to do to step up to the plate, to use what they have, whether the leverage, let's just put, they have many leverages to pull. And they must do that to bring these hostages home. And I want to thank the families for being with us today, and we will always be with you. And it is now my honor to introduce my colleague from Ohio, Greg Landsman. Greg.
Thank you. It's clear that these families represent an enormous amount of grief and pain and anger. But those of us who spend time with them also know that they represent resilience and determination, strength, and love. I mean, that's why they're here, traveling to the United States, elsewhere, because they love their families so much. They will do whatever it takes to bring them home. They won't stop, and we won't either. The fact is that releasing the hostages, which Hamas can do today, will end this war. Releasing the hostages will end the suffering. Releasing the hostages will reunite these families, begin their healing. Releasing the hostages will end this war. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are going to move on to the members of the Knesset that have joined us here today. And so we have MK Yuli Edelstein, and I apologize if you need to correct your name, but thank you, Yuli, for being here very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. Thank you, Debbie, Wasserman Schultz, Speaker Ohana, and distinguished colleagues from the Knesset, the Senate, and the Congress. When I'm standing next to the families of the hostages, I'm in no mood for even very important political speeches and discussing all kinds of issues we have on the agenda. So I'll say something very personal to you. Evil is not new to this world. 40 years ago, evil was around too. And people on the Hill, bipartisan, bi-camera, decided to take on that evil, on the former Soviet Union, on the evil empire that was holding thousands of Jews as refuseniks and dozens of Jews as prisoners. I was one of them. The then administration, late President Ronald Reagan, his Vice President George H. Bush, and people on the Hill, some names would sound familiar, maybe a young Senator Joe Biden, or young legislators like Nancy Pelosi or Steny Hoyer. They had events like that. Funny, no? Who would listen to them in the mighty Soviet Union? And they prevailed. I, alongside thousands of others, was granted an exit visa. What I'm trying to say to my counterparts here, please don't stop. You will win in the end. Your colleagues had even more difficult tasks than Hamas and other terrorist organizations. And they won because they were determined, and they managed to push the administration, and they managed to push their constituencies in the right direction. So I want to say thank you to that generation, and I want to say thank you to those here today, like people who are here with us, because we go through this experience of sitting down with the families of the hostages in the Knesset every day. And we wouldn't have good answers before their loved ones are back. Thank you.
Our next MK is Efrat Reitan Marom.
Speaker. I'm Efrat. I'm a representative of the opposition in this delegation, and I'm being honored to be a part of this delegation here. And thank you so much for your support. Well, I think that's a message to the entire world, and especially to Hamas, that we are united in these difficult times, and will do everything in our power to bring all the loved ones from the Gaza Strip alive, the whole 136 hostages, babies, women, and men, elderly. They are all there since October 7th. We do not know what's their status and their health. We understand that they are being tortured, hearing about rape and other sexual harassment. And we will not let this thing go away, and we will not stop until they will all come back to us. So, America, the United States, you are the greatest partner. These days, we cannot say enough how much we gratitude and thankful for everything you do. And we cherish that, and I know that we will win together. Thank you.
The next MK is Idan Roll.
I want to start off by thanking you, Senator Ernst, and you, Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, for your unwavering support and constant efforts, and to my esteemed colleagues. I want to speak on behalf of those families who couldn't be here because some families were so badly murdered, injured, torn apart, or mentally hurt in a way that we have hostages that don't have anyone to speak on their behalf. They just don't have anyone who can go around, meet people, tell the story of their loved ones. So we are fortunate to be able to hear some of the stories, but I'm here also to remind us all that we have to fight for all of these families, and unfortunately we have so many horrific stories and so many broken hearts of families just waiting to hear a sign of life, to know that their loved ones will return to them someday. So please keep in mind and please keep in your heart that the stories you hear today, we have so many. And no one prepares you for this when you get elected. And every day when you think you've heard the worst, you sit down with another family and you hear something new. And you hear about a new atrocity. And this is just a never-ending cycle of horrific stories, and we are all obligated to do whatever we can in order to bring them home safe as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will hear from the remaining hostage families, and we'll start with Eitan Gonen, please.
Thank you. Again, thank you very much for having us here. Thank you very much for the Biden administration and the American administration. Together with Meital, we have 8 kids, and Romy, as you can see, the lovely Romy with the beautiful smile is our sunshine. Romy brings light and heat and positive energy to every room she enters. Basically, if she enters this room, everybody will fall in love with her in 5 minutes, and after 10 minutes, everybody will want to adopt her. The last sentence of the American anthem is the land of the free and the home of the brave. And Romy is the bravest person I know. 124 days in a tunnel. And she must be free. She is a professional dancer, and together with her friend Gaia, they went to the festival, Novasa Festival, to dance in Israel. Starting from 6:30 in the morning, and when you receive a phone call on your day off, a Sabbath, and you receive a phone call at 6:30 in the morning, it's never a good sign. And Romy was on the line, shouting in panic, "Dad, Abba, I've been shot. I'm in a festival and I've been shot." And for 4.5 hours, we've been with her online. And it was very, very bad discussions. Basically, we heard her being kidnapped live, online. For 16 days, Romy was missing. And I believe most of you are fathers and mothers, and imagine that you don't know if your daughter is alive or not. Imagine that the last phone call with your daughter, she's been kidnapped. Imagine that you cannot speak with her, talk with her, see her. My friend told me that there are 2 kinds of people in this world, alive or dead. You are the 3rd category. You don't know. You don't know if your daughter is alive or dead. After 45 days, people came out from the same tunnel and they saw Romy, and they told us she's alive, but she's severely wounded in her arm because she was gunshot. And she's mistreated, and the hand is not functioning at all. The fingers are changing colors all the time. It means that the blood is not running smoothly in her arm, and we are fearing that she might lose her arm, or already lost. We know they are brutally and sexually molested. We know this. And for the last 74 days, we don't know nothing about Romy. But here we are, Meital and myself, we are strong, we are optimistic, and we're confident that Romy is going to be back home, alive, standing on her own 2 feet, and running towards our widespread arms, hugging her and not letting her go again to any other place than Israel. And she is going to be treated by the best doctors, physicians, in order to heal the wounds, mental wounds and physical wounds. And hopefully we will start our life very soon again, fresh start, as we had before the Black Sabbath. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
And finally, we will hear from Thomas Hand. Thomas.
Hi, good morning. I'm a very, very lucky parent. I got Emily back after 50 plus days. That was the worst period of time in my life. You literally can't imagine it. But now double that. And another quarter, 124 days. I don't know how these people are still standing. I really don't. Because as soon as I got Emily back, I literally physically collapsed. I had nothing left inside me. All my anger had gone, all my adrenaline had gone. Once you get them back, you just collapsed. You're running on empty all the time. I don't know how these people survive. I really don't. And now time is really, really critical. Every minute of every day of every week of every month, if there's no more, there can't be another month. They will slowly be dying from gangrene, from bullet wounds, from whatever wounds. Or they'll literally give up in their own head, and even if we get them back physically, we might not ever get them back mentally. I know it's too far a jump for most people to jump to where we are, and they are more. But almost every parent in a shopping centre or on the beach or whatever has lost their child for a minute. Do you remember that panic? Where the hell are they? You go nuts. Where are they? Screaming, shouting frantically. Now multiply that by all this time. That's unimaginable and that's unbearable. Please help us get them back now. Bring them home. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And Speaker, will we have time for questions? If we take just a couple questions. Just one or two, so please bear with us. And I will state too, you've heard from families, you've heard from the members of the Knesset, you've heard from the Speaker and from members here within our United States Capitol, and I appreciate my colleagues and their dedication to this effort in bringing our hostages home. Years ago, I was described by someone as being the iron fist in a velvet glove. And the velvet glove of my persona is sharing those tears and spending time with these hostage families and just being able to experience the pain that they're all going through. That's the velvet glove. The iron fist in me is the soldier that remains in me to this day. I am hoping that America will continue to be the velvet glove with that iron fist inside of it. And we must be. We must show love and concern for our dear friends in Israel, the pain and suffering that Hamas has inflicted upon that beautiful nation. But we must be the iron fist as well, making sure that Israel has every means necessary to destroy Hamas and then get to the root of the evil, which is Iran. This problem has got to end. So Israel, Speaker, we are with you. We are with you. One or two questions, and then we will move on. Thank you. Speaker. Yes.
Please.
Yesterday, President Biden called Hamas's response to the hostage deal, the proposal, a little over the top. With that response from Hamas, why are you still confident that a deal can be reached?
This is a question for
This is a question for the Senator and Representative.
Senator.
I believe that we continue to work with him. We have to, and we have got to find resolution. There is no just end. We're not going to deal with Hamas. We're not going to continue to negotiate. We have to continue. President Biden will express what he wants to express. I will say that Hamas, you need to give these hostages back. Every second matters. But I will tell you that what I have heard from those serving in Israel, what I believe to be true, is that Hamas cannot remain in existence on the face of the planet. One way or another, they will be wiped off the face of this earth. So that's where I stand. But in the meantime, we have to use whatever lever possible. And that means Qatar, they need to step up. They need to step up, use whatever they have to get Hamas engaged. If Hamas leaders in Qatar are no longer working with the Hamas leaders in the Gaza Strip, then you know what? Qatar, expel them. Expel them. And then we can target them elsewhere. So we have to continue negotiations. We have to see these hostages returned.
So in answer to your question, there's no doubt in my mind that the United States is going to be the catalyst that will help bring an end to the nightmare that these families are facing, to the nightmare that Israel and many other countries around the world, including ours, faces as a result of Hamas's intention of being hell-bent on eradicating Israel, eradicating Jews, and eradicating any of Jewish allies. President Biden, his entire administration, his diplomatic corps has been relentless and will continue to be relentless. Countless trips back and forth to the region, time spent with our other allies and close friends in the region, applying pressure, using the leverage we have. And, you know, it is possible, and I'm confident that those options are on the table, that we can begin to escalate the pressure. But there's no better diplomatic team that I've seen than President Biden's, with Secretary Blinken and his entire team. This is a full court press. It's very clear. And the United States, when we say that Israel is our closest ally in the region and friend in the region, that's not overstatement. That's real. There are intricate, very specific, daily interactions, even when there isn't a crisis. So we know one another, we rely on one another, and that confidence and that relationship is going to help result in bringing those hostages home and bringing this crisis to an end.
Okay, last question so we can be respectful of our guests.
On that note, just for both of you, what actionable steps can you take to, as members of Congress, and also is Congress united on this front to place pressure on Qatar to implement some sort of hostage deal here?
Bicameral, bipartisan. And we represent a great deal of other members that were not able to join us here today. But the pressure on Qatar is real, it exists, and it was a very pointed conversation that we had as a delegation during our visit to Qatar. I have heard from members in the administration that have since spoken to the Prime Minister and others in Qatar that our delegation visit made a difference. It was a very clear turning point in bringing Qatar forward to put more pressure on Hamas. I also would agree with Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz that the United States does have a very pivotal role in making sure that we bring an end to this situation and we see Hamas decimated. Again, America can lead and we can be the great convener. So whether that is bringing all parties together to find an end to this war and bringing our hostages home, we are going to provide that opportunity. I feel that. But yes, please. Okay.
And I couldn't agree. As we say here in the Capitol, I associate myself with the gentlelady's remarks. But as a senior member of the Appropriations Committee, I can tell you that we have very specific things that can specifically, country by country, begin to ratchet up the pressure. These are countries that all have an interest in remaining a friend of the United States and being considered one. And, you know, there are various levers that can be pulled. We are wrapping up the appropriations process now. We will likely see a supplemental bill that gives us an opportunity to apply pressure as we go through the process of passing it. And then there's the imminent FY25 appropriations process as well.
And we appreciate the Congresswoman's position on appropriations. Thank you. Speaker, any closing comments?
Thank you. Just let me thank once again Senator Johnny Ernst and Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz for facilitating this meeting and this really heartwarming group of a bicameral, bipartisan members of Congress, lawmakers, and we are very lucky to have you by our side. We are very lucky to have the United States of America by our side, and we are confident that sooner than later we will prevail, we will overcome, and you will see your loved ones once again for a full, fruitful, and happy lives. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Absolutely. Of course. Of course.